Alex Morgan had always been the adventurous type, the one who loved exploring forgotten places, abandoned buildings, and old hotels. During his fall break in Portland, Maine, he booked a small, budget-friendly hostel called Hollow Creek Lodge. Locals whispered strange things about it, rooms that never slept, shadows in the hallways, whispers when no one was around. Alex chuckled at these rumors, superstitions he thought were for timid tourists. The hostel itself was massive and slightly decayed. Its Victorian architecture was beautiful, yet intimidating. Dark wood, peeling paint, and narrow corridors that creaked under every footstep. Upon arrival, the receptionist, an older woman with wary eyes, handed him a brass key. "Room 9, she said softly, avoiding eye contact. "Please, don't make too much noise, and stay away from the window after dark." Alex smiled, thinking it was part of the hostel's charm, and carried his backpack up the rickety staircase. Room 9 was small but cozy, with cracked wallpaper, an old mirror with a spiderweb of cracks, and a window facing a narrow foggy alley behind the building. The faint smell of damp wood and old books lingered in the air. The first night, Alex explored the hostel's lounge. Most guests avoided room 9. A few whispered about the little girl who haunted it. One elderly traveler shook his head and muttered, "Stay away from her, or she'll stay with you forever." Alex laughed nervously, brushing off the warning. That night, while trying to sleep, he noticed scratches along the door frame, as if tiny nails had dug into the wood. The wind outside howled, and the floorboards creaked unnaturally, even though no one was in the hallway. Then came the first whisper, "Why are you here?" Alex froze. His rational mind insisted it was the old building settling, but a deep chill ran down his spine. He turned the lights on, but the room was empty. His heart thumped loudly as he tried to convince himself it was imagination. Over the next 2 days, the hauntings grew. Mirrors reflected shadows that didn't match the room's layout. His belongings were moved overnight, a jacket thrown on the bed, a notebook flipped open to a blank page. Faint giggles echoed through the hallway, sometimes right outside his door. The temperature dropped suddenly, frost forming along the window edges despite the fall season. Alex began documenting these events, thinking a rational explanation existed. Yet the whispers persisted, soft, almost pleading. "It's cold. Come with me." One rainy evening, he noticed tiny footprints in the wet dust by the window. They stopped abruptly, as if whoever made them had vanished into thin air. On the third night, Alex stayed awake, writing in his journal. Rain hammered on the window pane, and fog thickened the alley outside. Suddenly, he saw a pale figure at the glass. A girl, no older than 14, barefoot, soaked, hair plastered over her face. Her lips moved, but no sound came. The whisper carried in the air, greater than, "It's cold. Let me in." Alex froze. His heart raced. Part of him wanted to open the window to help her, but a deeper instinct screamed not to. Her eyes met his through the glass, sad, lonely, and desperate. She glided backward, moving unnaturally until she vanished into the foggy alley. The next morning, Alex confronted the receptionist about room 9. She sighed heavily. "Years ago, a little girl died here. No one really knows how. They never found her body. People say she stays near her room, especially when it rains." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He realized The warnings were serious. Guests who invited her in, even by opening the window, reportedly never slept peacefully again. He began researching the hostel's history and discovered newspaper clippings from decades ago. A little girl named Lila Hargrove had vanished during a stormy night in the 1950s. Guests reported seeing her pale figure near room 9, always begging to come inside, always disappearing into mist or shadows. Alex began experiencing personal encounters. On rainy nights, he felt the faint brush of her hand on his shoulder. Objects he left on the floor were rearranged in patterns, tiny, precise shapes. Shadows lingered near the window, reflecting her sorrow and longing. Despite the fear, he felt a strange emotional pull. She wasn't violent or angry. She was lonely, seeking warmth, someone to notice her. Alex often whispered back, "I see you. I won't hurt you." For hours, he would sit by the window, watching her faint shape glide in the alley, her tiny figure visible only through the veil of rain. On a particularly stormy night, Alex couldn't resist the urge to confront the presence. The hostel was silent, except for the rain and occasional thunder. He approached the window cautiously. "Lila, I won't open the window, but I want to help you," he said softly. The mist thickened. A glowing pale figure emerged from the fog. Lila, eyes full of sadness and longing. She reached out, her small hand passing through the glass. Alex could feel a cold warmth, as if the air itself remembered her touch. "Thank you," she whispered, fading slowly into the mist, leaving behind a tiny wet scarf on the window ledge. Alex picked it up, feeling the weight of her presence. He understood. She wasn't a threat. She was trapped, waiting for someone to notice, to acknowledge her existence. At sunrise, Alex packed and left room 9. The hostel felt emptier than ever. He never returned. Yet, whenever he hears rain against a window or passes an old building, he remembers. Room 9 never sleeps, and neither does she. Liam Carter grew up in Salem, Massachusetts, a quiet town of cobblestone streets, foggy forests, and old colonial houses. He had always been introspective, the kind of person who wrote letters he'd never send, wandered in autumn mist, and spent hours reading by candlelight while the rain tapped on the windows. He met Isla Bennett during a rainy morning in college, under a small cafe awning. Both drenched, she handed him a napkin to dry his soaked notebook. Her smile was warm, curious, and in that brief moment, Liam felt a connection he couldn't explain. From that day, they were inseparable, walking in the rain, sharing secrets, writing each other letters, and leaving little notes tucked into books or coat pockets. Isla had a gift for making ordinary things magical. She loved storms, saying the sound of rain felt like whispers from the universe. She loved the fog, claiming it made the world soft and mysterious. Liam loved how she made him feel alive, like he wasn't just living, but truly experiencing every fleeting second. One late October evening, as Halloween approached, they walked home from a small town festival. The sky was gray, clouds low, and the rain began to fall in soft sheets. Umbrellas were forgotten. They laughed, splashing through puddles, drenched but happy. Halfway home, a large branch snapped and fell across the road. Ayla, startled, slipped on the wet pavement and hit her head on the curb. Liam scrambled to help, dialing 911. but she had already lost consciousness. The ambulance arrived quickly, but it was too late. Isla died before they could save her. Liam's world shattered. The storm continued outside, relentless, but inside him, the rain never stopped. The streets they had walked together were now empty and cold, and every puddle reflected her absence. Weeks later, Liam returned to the cafe where they first met. Rain streaked the windows. The smell of coffee and wet streets filled the air. He felt her presence immediately. The napkin she once handed him appeared on his table, folded neatly. Her favorite song played faintly from nowhere. Small items she touched, a pen, a notebook, moved on their own. At night, whispers called his name softly. Liam, I'm here. Cold air brushed his neck. Shadows lingered at the edge of his vision, faint but unmistakable. Liam initially tried to rationalize grief, imagination, stress, but the moments grew undeniable, impossible to ignore. One rainy night, Liam wandered to the old bridge where they shared their first kiss. Fog wrapped the river like a living curtain, and the rain tapped gently on the wooden planks. Isla, if you're here, please, just show me, he whispered. The air grew icy. A soft glow appeared through the mist, her shape, delicate, pale, drenched, standing at the bridge's edge. Her hair clung to her face. Her eyes were full of sadness and longing. Liam, she whispered, voice trembling, I'm still here. He reached for her, heart pounding. His hands passed through hers, cold as the fog. She smiled faintly, and Liam felt the warmth of her presence in his chest. Greater than, I can't stay, but I will always be near, she said. She handed him a wet scarf, tangible, soaked but warm, a token of her lingering love. Over the next months, Liam lived with her presence. On rainy nights, he felt a gentle brush of her hand against his shoulder. Shadows and mirrors sometimes reflected her smiling softly, watching him. Her favorite songs played on empty devices at unexpected moments. In dreams, he walked with her through the streets of Salem, laughing, holding hands, a bittersweet echo of the life they had lost. Liam never feared her. The presence was comforting, like a guardian spirit, reminding him that love never truly dies. One Halloween night, exactly a year after her death, Liam returned to the bridge. The rain was heavy, fog thick, and the streets deserted. He whispered softly, Isla, I miss you more than I can bear. If you can hear me, I'll just need to see you one last time. The mist shimmered, and through the fog she appeared, pale, drenched, ethereal, eyes full of the same love and sorrow. She reached for him, but he could only feel the cold air where her hand should have been. Liam, it's time. You must live. But remember me, she whispered. Tears streamed down his face as she faded into the mist. He held the scarf to his chest, feeling warmth and love lingering in the empty air. From that night on, he still felt her presence, but never as intensely. Sometimes, a shadow moved in the corner of his vision. Sometimes, a soft whisper carried through the rain. Her love remained gentle, enduring, and eternal. Mason Reynolds had always loved old books. He was the kind of person who could spend hours in dusty libraries, tracing his fingers along the spines of forgotten novels. One chilly October afternoon, while exploring a second-hand bookstore in Boston, Massachusetts, Mason stumbled upon an unmarked leather-bound diary tucked behind a stack of old newspapers. The diary was fragile, yellowed with age, its cover smelling faintly of smoke and damp. Curious, Mason opened it. The first page had a single line written in elegant handwriting, greater than, if you are reading this, do not ignore the warnings. Mason frowned, intrigued. He bought the diary, not knowing that he had just invited a presence into his life that would change everything. That evening, Mason sat by his desk, candle flickering, reading the diary. It belonged to a girl named Evelyn Clark, who had lived in Boston over a century ago. She wrote about her life, her fears, and a presence she called the shadow that waits. The first warning was subtle. Evelyn mentioned hearing whispers at night, doors creaking open on their own, and seeing figures in mirrors. Mason chuckled nervously. Old diary, old ghost stories, he muttered. But then, the diary's entries became personal. Entry 5. I see you in the mirror. Don't turn around. Entry 7. The rain brings her closer. She wants you. Entry 9. I'm trapped, and so will you be if you read too far. Mason's heart began to race. He felt an inexplicable chill as he read, the candle flame flickering wildly. That night, Mason placed the diary on his nightstand and went to bed. At midnight, he awoke to a soft whispering coming from the corner of his room. Mason. His eyes darted around, but the room was empty. Shadows shifted unnaturally near the walls. He noticed the thin, cold handprint on the nightstand where the diary rested. He tried to rationalize. A draft, sleep paralysis, imagination. But then the whisper came again, closer, almost in his ear, greater than, do not stop reading. Over the next week, Mason became obsessed with Evelyn's diary. Her entries detailed a haunting presence that followed her through the rain, always asking to be noticed. She described how she had accidentally invited it into her life by acknowledging it, and how the presence would never leave. As Mason read, strange things happened. Pages of the diary flipped themselves, as if guided by invisible hands. Faint whispers echoed his name when he was alone. Reflections in mirrors showed a girl standing behind him, hair covering her face, eyes pleading. Mason realized that reading the diary was linking him to Evelyn's past, binding him to the presence she had warned about. One stormy night, Mason stayed up, determined to finish the diary. Rain hammered on his window, thunder shaking the walls. The final pages revealed the truth. Greater than, she does not want to hurt you. She only wants to be remembered. But if you look too long, she will never let you leave. Mason felt a cold brush on his shoulder. He turned slowly, and there she was. Evelyn's ghost, pale, drenched, hair covering her face, eyes full of sorrow. She whispered, "Do not forget me. Stay with me." Fear and compassion collided. Mason understood. She was lonely, trapped, desperate for connection. He whispered back, "Greater than I will remember you. I won't let you fade." Her form flickered, then vanished, leaving behind a single page in the diary, written in his own handwriting. "Thank you for seeing me." Mason kept the diary carefully, never leaving it unattended. On rainy nights, he sometimes saw shadows flit past the corner of his eyes, or felt a soft whisper when he was alone. He no longer feared Evelyn. Instead, he felt a deep, lingering connection, like a friendship that transcended time and death. He learned that some spirits weren't evil. Some were just lost, waiting for someone to notice them. And sometimes, all it took was reading their story. Emma Thompson loved the outdoors. She was adventurous, curious, and always dragging her friends into her explorations. For one chilly autumn weekend, she and four college friends, Ryan, Sophie, Lucas, and Mia, decided on a picnic in the remote cedarwood forest just outside Portland, Maine. The forest had a reputation. Locals spoke of travelers who disappeared, strange mists, and ghostly figures appearing near old ruins. Emma laughed at the warnings. The thrill of adventure outweighed fear. The group arrived around noon. The trees towered above them, leaves turning amber and crimson. Sunlight pierced the canopy in thin shafts, making the fog appear golden. They set up their picnic near an abandoned wooden bridge that crossed a narrow stream. Emma immediately noticed subtle oddities. No birds, no squirrels. The forest was unnaturally silent. The fog rolled in quickly, thicker than it should have. Shadows at the edge of the clearing seemed to shift unnaturally. Her friends teased her. "You're imagining it. It's perfect for pictures." Emma laughed nervously, but couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. While unpacking, Emma saw something unusual near the bridge. An old, tattered picnic basket with no owner in sight. A folded note lay on top, greater than, "Do not stay until the rain comes." "It knows," Sophie laughed. "Ghost prank," she said, waving it off. Lucas shrugged. Ryan, ever the skeptic, insisted they just focus on food. But Emma's stomach knotted. Something about the basket and the note felt wrong, urgent. As they ate, the wind began to pick up. Leaves rustled, whispering sounds carried through the clearing. Emma kept glancing at the fog, feeling shadows brush at her vision. By late afternoon, the fog thickened, obscuring familiar paths. The laughter of her friends sounded distant, echoing unnaturally. Tiny footprints appeared in the mud around the old basket, as if a small child had walked there. The whispers began, soft, pleading, almost human. "Stay. Don't leave. It's lonely." Mia shivered. "Did you hear that?" she asked. Ryan laughed nervously, but tension spread. Emma felt icy fingers graze her arm. No one else reacted. Sunset came quickly. The forest turned dark, the fog so thick it swallowed all sight beyond a few feet. They tried leaving, but every path led back to the clearing. Panic set in. Shadows flickered between the trees, pale, fleeting forms, sometimes resembling children or women. The whispers grew louder, greater than, "Join us, forever." Sophie screamed as a shadow passed behind her, leaving a cold gust of air. Lucas dropped the picnic basket. It was gone, replaced by the old tattered one Emma had noticed earlier. "We have to run," Emma shouted. The group ran blindly, twisting through the fog. The forest seemed alive. Branches reached like hands, roots tripped them, and strange whispers circled their heads. During the chaos, Mia clung to Emma, sobbing. Ryan tried to rationalize everything, but even he felt fear gnawing at him. Shadows lingered in their peripheral vision, shapes crouched in the fog, watching. Emma remembered the note. "Do not stay until the rain comes." A light drizzle began, cold and heavy, as if the forest itself was warning them. Every drop felt like a finger on her neck. "We have to keep moving," Emma shouted. She felt a small hand brush her sleeve, invisible, icy. She turned quickly. The shadow of a girl stood just at the fog's edge, staring, hair dripping wet, eyes hollow and pleading. Greater than, "Don't leave me." The group ran faster, hearts pounding. The forest seemed endless. Every twist and turn returned them to the clearing, the fog thick and suffocating. Finally, through desperation, Emma remembered an old trail near the stream. She led the group along it. The mist began thinning as they approached the parking lot. Behind them, the clearing appeared empty and ordinary, but Emma knew better. The tattered basket remained gone. The whispers faded into the wind, but sometimes a faint echo lingered, greater than, "Join us, stay, don't leave." They never found the trail leading back to the bridge clearly marked again. Weeks later, Emma couldn't shake the memory. Even in the city, rain brought the whispers back in her dreams. Shadows flitted in her peripheral vision. The echo of footsteps in empty rooms reminded her of the foggy clearing. She returned once, cautiously, alone. In the clearing, she saw faded picnic setups, untouched for decades, ghostly figures sitting silently, staring at nothing, waiting eternally for company. Emma never went back. Yet sometimes, on rainy days, she feels a hand brush her sleeve or hears faint whispers, "Join us. Don't leave." Claire Reynolds was a freelance writer who'd been struggling for years in New York. When her editor offered her a month-long retreat to finish her latest book, she jumped at the chance. The cabin she rented stood at the edge of Willow Creek, an isolated town in upstate Vermont. It was an old two-story farmhouse surrounded by overgrown grass and maple trees, with one strange detail. Every window had heavy locks on the inside. When she arrived, the caretaker, Mr. Harlan, handed her the keys but refused to step inside. He said quietly, "If you hear someone talking when you're alone, don't answer. Just keep the lights on." She thought it was just a local ghost story. The house smelled of old wood, paper, and dust. The floors creaked even when she stood still, but it had charm. Old furniture, warm light, and a small study facing the forest. She unpacked, made tea, and started writing. Outside, the fog rolled through the trees, soft and endless. It was peaceful until midnight. That's when she heard it. A voice, faint but clear, coming from the living room. Greater than, "Who's there?" She froze. She hadn't spoken. The words had echoed her exact tone, like a mimic. She whispered again, just to test it. "Is someone here?" A pause. Then, from the dark hallway, "Someone here." The voice matched her. Pitch, breath, everything. Her chest tightened. She locked her door, turned on every light, and stayed awake until dawn. The next morning, she told Mr. Harlan what happened. He stared at her quietly and said, "It's not new. The house remembers voices. It repeats what it hears." Sometimes years later, Claire didn't believe him. She was logical, grounded, but as night came, she started hearing the voices again. Only now, they weren't hers. A woman crying softly, a child humming, a man whispering, "Don't open the door." Every sound came from the walls. Curiosity won over fear. The next day, she searched every inch of the house, attic, basement, even behind furniture. In the attic, she found something strange, a locked door with an old brass keyhole. The wood around it was scratched, like someone had tried to claw their way out. She found a matching key in the drawer of her bedroom. When she unlocked it, the door creaked open to reveal a small room lined with mirrors, and in the center, a rocking chair facing one mirror directly. A thick layer of dust covered the floor, except for two fresh footprints leading to the chair. When she touched the back of it, she felt warmth, as if someone had just been sitting there. Then the mirror fogged up, and a single word appeared, greater than listen. That night, the storm come. Rain hit the windows like fingertips. The power flickered, then went out. Claire lit a candle and sat in her study, trying to stay calm. But then, the house began to speak. Voices, dozens, whispering, crying, laughing. From the floors, the walls, the air itself. She's here again. Don't answer. Let me in. Then one voice rose above the rest, her own, greater than, help me. She dropped the candle. The flames danced, reflecting off the window. And in that reflection, behind her, she saw a woman standing. Long black hair, pale face, eyes that looked familiar. The woman smiled, greater than, you listen. The candle went out. When the caretaker came to check on her the next day, the door was wide open. The house was silent. Her laptop sat on the table, screen glowing faintly. On the screen was her last line of writing. Just one sentence. Greater than, sometimes the house doesn't want to be empty anymore. No trace of Claire was ever found, but every now and then, hikers passing the Willow Creek property say they hear typing coming from the old farmhouse. And if you stand near the window at night and whisper anything, the house whispers it back, word for word. Ryan Miller never planned to stop at the Hollow Creek Inn. He was driving from Chicago to Denver after attending his childhood friend's funeral when a violent storm forced him off the road. The GPS went black. The rain drowned every sound except his own breath. Through the mist, he saw a flicker of light, a small, old-fashioned inn with ivy growing up its walls and a wooden sign swinging in the wind. Inside, it was strangely warm. The scent of lavender and something faintly metallic filled the air. Behind the counter sat an elderly woman wearing a dark blue shawl. Her eyes looked tired, but kind. Long drive, honey? She asked softly. Yeah, Ryan replied. Just need a room for the night. Room 103's all I got. Don't mind the mirror. Old thing's been here longer than I have. Ryan smiled politely, unaware how much that mirror was about to change his night. Room 103 felt untouched by time. The wallpaper peeled near the corners, and a single lamp buzzed faintly beside the bed. But what caught his attention immediately was the mirror, tall, almost touching the ceiling, its frame made of dark wood carved with vines and roses. When he moved closer, he noticed something etched into the glass near the bottom. 3 letters, faint but visible. MMA. Ryan froze. Emma, the name of his ex-girlfriend, the woman he lost in a car accident exactly 1 year ago. He stepped back. His reflection wavered slightly, like heat above asphalt. Maybe it was his tired mind playing tricks. Ryan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the mirror. His reflection didn't quite move in sync. When he blinked, it blinked a moment late. When he tilted his head, the reflection seemed to smile, though Ryan hadn't. Then he saw her, a pale figure standing behind his reflection. Long hair, white nightgown, hands resting gently on the reflection's shoulder. Her face was calm, but her eyes looked sad. He whispered, barely breathing, Emma. The reflection smiled wider. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, she was standing behind him, instead of inside the mirror. He spun around. Nothing. Just the sound of rain and his pounding heart. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He lay awake, listening to the storm. Every few minutes, a soft tapping came from the mirror, like fingertips pressing on glass. At first, he ignored it. Then came a whisper, greater than, "Why did you leave me, Ryan?" He sat up sharply. The voice was gentle, almost loving, exactly how Emma used to sound when she'd wake him up before work. The mirror fogged over, and words began to form slowly, drawn by unseen fingers. Greater than I waited. Tears filled his eyes. He approached the glass, trembling. Greater than, I didn't leave you. You're gone, Emma. The whisper came again, closer this time, directly behind his ear. Greater than, then come with me. Ryan fell to his knees. His reflection now looked nothing like him. Its eyes were hollow, skin pale, smile wrong. Behind it, Emma stood clearer than ever, greater than. It hurts here, she whispered, but it's cold without you. He reached out, and the glass felt warm. The reflection's hand met his halfway. For a second, everything went silent. No rain, no thunder, just peace. Then the lamp exploded. The mirror shattered. The next morning, the housekeeper knocked on the door. No one answered. When she entered, she found the room empty, except for shattered glass on the floor and the faint scent of lavender. The old mirror's frame was gone, as if it had never been there. But on the wall, scratched faintly into the wallpaper, she found a new word. Just one. Greater than, together. End. A decade had passed, but Ranch still kept the same phone number. The number Aisha used to call him from. She was his first love, his only love, and the love he lost. She died in a road accident on the way to meet him, right after their first big fight. Her last words were, "Wait for my call tonight, okay?" That call never came, until now. Rianch was asleep when the ringtone shattered the silence. Half awake, he looked at the screen. The name made his blood run cold. Aisha calling. His hand shivered. He answered, static breathing. Then, "Ray, I'm sorry I'm late." Her voice, the same soft tone he'd memorized. "Aisha?" His voice cracked. "You waited for me." "Thank you," she whispered. Before he could speak again, the call cut. No signal, no explanation. He rushed to check her number on his contacts. Not found. His call history? Empty, like the phone erased it. The next night, ring, 2:13 a.m. again. "Ray, it hurts here. It's so cold." She sounded scared, like she was crying. "Where are you?" he begged. "I don't know. It's dark." I can't move a whisper behind her voice. "Don't let him take me." Then screaming, and silence. Rayanch dropped the phone and cried. He knew he was losing her again. The guilt he carried burned deeper than any nightmare. They fought that day because he forgot their anniversary. She was angry. He was careless. She drove too fast. Rayanch visited the accident spot, a lonely curve on a forest road. He placed fresh marigolds there. The wind howled. The night felt thick, like someone was watching. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. Aisha sent a photo. His heart froze. It was a picture of him, kneeling by the road taken from behind. He spun around. No one. But the smell of her perfume drifted by. Faint. Fading. "Don't leave again," he whispered to the darkness. That night, he didn't sleep. 3 a.m. A soft knock echoed from his front door. Tock, tock, tock. He opened it. Aisha stood there, but she didn't look human. Her skin pale as moonstone, her dress torn and soaked in dried blood, bone slightly visible beneath her neck. Yet her eyes, those loving eyes. Ray, you didn't come with me. She smiled sadly. You promised we'd be together forever. He stepped back, terrified. She stepped inside without moving her legs, sliding silently over the floor. The lights flickered. She touched his chest. Her fingers were like ice needles. Come with me, Ray. Love doesn't end with death. The shadows behind her twisted. A tall, faceless silhouette made of darkness and smoke. The same voice from the phone growled, Leave her, she is mine. Aisha screamed, No, Ray is mine. He belongs with me. The shadow extended claws of pure blackness and wrapped around her. She wailed, agony, heartbreak. Rayansh, save me. Please save me like you promised. Rayansh grabbed her icy hand. His skin blistered instantly. I won't lose you again, he cried. The shadow laughed, then died with her. Rayansh woke up on the roadside where she died, phone buzzing beside him. Aisha calling. He answered sobbing, Ray, it's okay now. We can be together. He reached out, and she materialized before him, glowing faintly. But his heart stopped beating. He collapsed into her arms, smiling through his tears. Aisha kissed his forehead. I told you, I'd come back for my last call. They disappeared into the night mist together. No one found his body. Only his phone remains. And sometimes, at 2:13 a.m., it dials someone random. A whisper travels through the line. Have you ever died for love? There are some people we never stop loving, even when the world insists they are gone forever. For Noah, that person was Avery. Noah and Avery had been inseparable for 3 years, planning everything together. A small apartment in the city, a dog they would name Pumpkin, and dreams of traveling the world. But one rainy night, Avery's car slid off the highway. Noah held her hand at the hospital, begging her to wake up. She didn't. After the funeral, Noah's world became a void. The house was too quiet, the bed too big. The nights stretched endlessly. Every evening, he cried himself to sleep until something happened. She returned. Noah found himself standing on a deserted beach, the sky dark, the moon hidden behind clouds. A figure appeared at the water's edge. It was Avery. Her smile was the same one he had memorized, soft, comforting, full of warmth. Her voice, when she whispered his name, broke his chest in half. It's me, she said. I've missed you so much. He ran to embrace her, feeling the chill of her skin, but the cold didn't matter. He clung to her. She leaned close to his ear, greater than, promise me you'll come back tomorrow night. He nodded, tears streaming, and then woke up. The dreams continued, each night more vivid, more intense. The beach grew longer, darker. The wind howled like sorrow itself. Avery began asking questions that unsettled him. Greater than, do you still love me? You won't replace me, right? You'll never leave me, right? Noah always answered yes, anything to keep her close. Until one night, she asked, would you die for me? He froze. Her smile was gentle, almost innocent, but there was something darker behind it now. The waves behind her turned violently, and Noah noticed shapes moving beneath the water. In waking life, Noah began to change. He stopped eating. He stopped talking to friends. He spent all day waiting for night, counting hours until sleep returned. People worried. He didn't care. One night, Avery stood closer than ever in his dream. Her breath was ice cold on his lips. "Greater than, you belong with me," she whispered. The moonlight revealed that her dress was tattered, wet with dark water, her hair tangled with seaweed. Noah tried to step back. "Avery, this isn't real," he whispered. Her smile twitched. "Greater than, if this isn't real, why are you bleeding?" He looked at his hands, fingertips bleeding, wet with brine, though he was awake in his bedroom. "Where are you taking me?" he asked, voice trembling. She pointed at the endless waves. "Greater than, to where I am." She walked into the water, but it didn't resist her. She sank through it, as if descending into a grave. "Greater than, Mia, wait!" he screamed instinctively. The ocean surged, knocking him to his knees. Hands, dozens, emerged from the depths, cold and grasping. Avery surfaced again, her skin gray, her eyes hollow, her face cracked like fragile porcelain. Behind her, shapes emerged, other dead, watching, reaching, waiting. "All of them love someone too," she whispered. "They all chose to follow me." Noah stopped waking up. Doctors said he was in a coma, but in the dream, he was still on that dark beach. Avery stood waiting, arms wide, a sad but loving smile on her face. "Greater than, you came back," she whispered, "and you'll never wake up again." He tried to scream, but the ocean swallowed his voice. She kissed him. "Greater than, I told you. I'd come back for my last call." They disappeared together into the night mist. Noah's body still lies in a hospital bed, breathing, but gone inside. Sometimes, at 2:13 a.m., his lips twitch, whispering Avery's name. And if anyone dreams of a dark, endless beach, a soft voice might call them. "Come with me. Stay forever, love, it seems, can stretch beyond life and become something terrifyingly permanent." Dylan Carter was a college student traveling through Vermont during fall break. He had read about Willow Creek Hostel online, cheap, cozy, and slightly off the beaten path. The hostel looked charming from the outside, brick walls covered in ivy, warm light spilling from antique windows. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood, old books, and faint cinnamon. The receptionist, Olivia, handed him a key with a soft smile. "Room 217, she said. "It's quiet. You'll like it. Don't mind the noises at night. Some people say it's unusual." Dylan laughed nervously. "Greater than, no problem. I've stayed in plenty of old buildings." He didn't know that room 217 had a history of disappearances and restless spirits. Dylan unpacked his bag, setting his laptop and notebooks on a small desk. The room felt cozy, yet heavy. Shadows clung to the corners, even with the lamp on. As night fell, the floorboards creaked with every gust of wind. Then he heard it, faint, almost imperceptible. "Dylan." He froze. "Hello?" he whispered. Silence. The lamp flickered. A cold breeze brushed his neck. He turned to the door, slightly ajar, though he was sure he closed it. "Dylan, come." The voice was female, soft, and filled with sorrow. Across from his bed was a tall mirror. Dylan noticed smudges on the glass, tiny handprints. Behind him, for a second, a figure appeared. A young woman, pale, eyes dark, hair hanging over her face. He spun around. Empty room. His laptop pinged with a message. Greater than, you shouldn't be here. No sender. Wi-Fi was off. The wind outside howled, rattling the window panes. Even under his blanket, he could hear footsteps on the floor above, though the hostel was almost empty. The next morning, Dylan asked Olivia about the room. Her smile disappeared. Greater than, room 217. Don't stay too long. People hear voices, see things. A girl disappeared there years ago. Some say she never left Dylan's stomach twisted with unease, but curiosity won over. He decided he would stay the night. At 1:57 a.m., a soft knocking came from the hallway. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Dylan grabbed his flashlight. The hallway was empty. Suddenly, a door down the hall slowly opened. A figure appeared. A young woman in a white nightgown, hair wet and hanging over her face, barefoot. Dylan, please. She reached toward him. Greater than, who are you? He asked. She tilted her head. Greater than, I'm waiting for someone to help me. Her eyes glistened with tears. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. In a heartbeat, she disappeared into the wall, melting into shadow. Dylan woke the next morning with scratches along his arm, deep, raw, bright red. He packed quickly and ran to the reception. Olivia looked at him solemnly. Greater than, you saw her. Not many survive a night in 217 without leaving, forever changed. He left immediately, never looking back. Years later, Dylan still has nightmares. A young woman in a white gown stands silently, reaching through mirrors, whispering, Dylan, come back, please. Room 217 still waits, and if anyone sleeps there, sometimes a soft, desperate voice calls their name in the night. Love, obsession, and regret, all trapped in one room. Mason and his friends had always loved Halloween. This year, they decided to do something daring, explore the old Harper Woods, rumored to be haunted. Locals whispered about a ghostly figure wandering the woods on Halloween night, carrying a lantern. They said anyone who saw it never returned the same, if at all. Mason laughed. Greater than, it's just a story. Ghosts don't exist. His friends, Ella, Tyler, and Lena, hesitated but agreed. They packed flashlights, cameras, and snacks, heading toward the dense forest at dusk. The forest was eerily quiet as night fell. Leaves rustled underfoot, but no animal stirred. Around 10 p.m., a faint orange glow appeared between the trees. Guys, is that a lantern? Mason whispered. The glow hovered, moving slowly, always just out of reach. They called out, greater than, hello? Who's there? No reply. Then, a whisper drifted through the trees. Don't follow. Leave now. Mason stepped forward. Greater than, it's just someone messing with us. The lantern floated higher, revealing a pale figure of a woman, her hair dripping wet, dress torn, eyes hollow, and glowing faintly. The friends panicked, trying to leave, but the path behind them vanished, replaced by thick mist and twisted trees. The lantern glided toward them. The woman raised a hand, pointing at Mason. Greater than you. Alone. We'll stay. Suddenly, Tyler screamed. He had vanished. No one saw him get pulled, but his screams echoed in the night. Greater than Tyler, Mason yelled, but his voice carried no weight. Lena grabbed Mason's arm, but the fog swallowed her fingers. They were trapped, and the lantern's glow grew brighter, warmer, almost hypnotic. Mason remembered what the locals told him. Many years ago, a woman named Clara Harper died in these woods on Halloween night. Her lantern was set to guide lost travelers, but also take them to join her forever. The glowing figure was Clara. Her death had twisted her into something neither alive nor dead, lonely, desperate, and seeking company. She floated closer to Mason, whispering, "Stay, stay with me, don't leave." Mason's heart raced. He wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't move. Mason realized the only way to save his friends was to follow the lantern. He grabbed it, feeling icy pain shooting through his hands. The mist swallowed him, dragging him deeper into the woods. He saw flashes of Tyler and Lena, trapped in shadows, screaming silently. Clara's voice grew urgent. "Forever, together, forever." Mason's vision blurred. Tears streamed. He whispered, "Greater than, I won't leave. Just let my friends go." The mist around Tyler and Lena parted. They ran toward the edge of the woods, safe. Mason, however, was left behind. Clara's lantern glowed brighter than the moon. She reached for him, her hollow eyes softening. "Thank you for staying with me." Every Halloween night, locals say a pale man with a lantern wanders Harper Woods, joined by a glowing figure. Sometimes, hikers hear whispers on the wind. "Stay, forever, never leave." And if you see the lantern, don't follow it, because the woods take those who do, and some souls are never seen again. Nathaniel Nate Parker was a college student studying history. During Halloween, he volunteered to document Old Willow Cemetery, one of the oldest graveyards in Vermont. The cemetery was famous for its tragic legends, most notably the tale of Isabella, a bride who died on her wedding night over a century ago. Locals whispered that her spirit roamed the graveyard, searching for her lost love. Nate arrived just before sunset. The air smelled of wet soil and decaying leaves. Tombstones leaned at odd angles. The fog thickened around them like a living thing. He set up his camera, flashlight, and notebook. He was eager, not afraid. As night fell, Nate noticed a figure in white standing by the largest tombstone. Her dress shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Long dark hair covered her face. "Greater than, who's there?" he called. She didn't answer. Only the fog moved around her, curling and twisting unnaturally. Suddenly, she turned, revealing hollow eyes that seemed to pierce his soul. Nate felt chills run down his spine. She raised her hand slowly. "Greater than Nathaniel." The whisper echoed softly, almost carried by the wind. Nate's heart pounded. He remembered the legend. Isabella had been set to marry a wealthy man. On her wedding night, a jealous rival had poisoned her. She died alone in the chapel courtyard. The locals said her spirit wandered ever since, searching for her lost fiancé. "I've been waiting," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I've waited for you." Nate's mind reeled. The air around him grew icy, and the mist thickened. Footsteps echoed behind him, soft, dragging, like wet leaves. Each night, Nate returned, drawn by fascination and fear. The bride appeared again and again, whispering, always calling his name. "You're mine. Come closer." Her presence was both terrifying and heartbreakingly sad. Her skin was pale as marble, her lips quivering. Each time he approached, Nate felt a cold hand brush his cheek, though no one else was there. The camera he brought home revealed strange figures in the background, Shadowy men and women, all blurred, watching, trapped like Isabella. On stormy Halloween, Nate stayed until midnight. The wind howled like anguished cries. Rain poured, soaking his clothes. Suddenly, she appeared directly before him. Her eyes glowed faintly, and her voice broke like a violin string. "You cannot leave. We are bound." The ground beneath him seemed to shift. Tombstones cracked and groaned. Roots lifted, reaching for him. "Isabella, what do you want?" he gasped. "To be loved, to be remembered, to never be alone again," she whispered. Nate felt himself being pulled toward her, the graveyard twisting around him. He remembered the old legend. Anyone who showed sympathy or love to Isabella never returned. He tried to resist, but her hands were ice cold, her touch paralyzing. "Stay with me, forever," Nate screamed as the ground opened beneath him. He fell into darkness, surrounded by whispers, soft cries, and Isabella's heartbeat, slow, steady, eternal. The storm raged outside the cemetery, but inside, time had stopped. Years later, locals report seeing a man walking with a bride in white through the misty cemetery. Some say it's Nate and Isabella, forever wandering, bound by love and death. Visitors sometimes hear whispers in the wind, "Stay, stay with me." And if you wander into Old Willow Cemetery at night, beware the bride, because some love stories never truly end. Jackson Reed, a college student traveling across New England, arrived at Hollow Creek Hostel, an old Victorian-style hostel on the edge of a quiet village. The building looked charming in daylight, ivy crawling up the walls, small lanterns lighting the entrance. Locals, however, whispered warnings. "Stay away from room 7. No one sleeps there. Strange things happen at night." Jackson chuckled, brushing it off. "Ghost stories. Nothing real." He checked in, the receptionist handing him an old brass key with room 7 engraved. "Don't forget," the receptionist said softly, eyes flickering nervously. "Never stay up too late in that room." Jackson shrugged, taking it as a joke, and headed upstairs. The hallways were narrow, dimly lit by flickering bulbs. Each floor creaked underfoot. He reached room 7, the only vacant room, and stepped inside. By midnight, the hostel was silent. Only the wind howled outside. Jackson unpacked, noting the room was surprisingly cold despite the autumn night. He set up his backpack and pulled out a notebook to journal his travels. Suddenly, he heard it, a soft, distant whisper, "Jackson." He froze. The voice was human, yet distant, echoing faintly, as if carried by the walls. He turned on the bedside lamp. Nothing. The room grew colder, and his breath became visible. The wooden floorboards creaked, though he hadn't moved. The shadows along the walls stretched unnaturally, twisting, bending, as if watching him. A chill ran down his spine. Something was in the room with him. At 12:45 a.m., Jackson saw her, a woman in an old-fashioned tattered dress, pale as moonlight, dripping as if she had walked through rain. Her long black hair covered her face, and a faint glow shone around her. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered softly, voice trembling. Jackson's heart pounded. He tried to leave the room, but the door wouldn't budge. The windows were fogged, hiding the outside world entirely. She drifted closer, her bare feet leaving wet footprints across the carpet. Her hands reached toward him, trembling. I can't sleep. Nobody ever stays. Stay with me. Despite fear, Jackson felt compassion, greater than, I'm here. I won't leave, he whispered. The room seemed to respond, shadows stretching and twisting, walls bending slightly, creaking like a living thing. Jackson remembered the history of the hostel. Decades ago, Lillian Moore, a young traveler, died mysteriously in room 7 on a stormy night. Since then, anyone who stayed alone reported seeing her ghost, hearing whispers, feeling icy hands brushing their shoulders, and sometimes waking to find objects moved inexplicably. Jackson tried comforting her, greater than, you're not alone. I'm here. Her eyes softened, revealing centuries of lonely sorrow. The room seemed to close in around him. The shadows became thicker, almost alive, whispering unintelligible words. He could feel the cold from her touch spreading through his body, but he refused to let go. Hours passed. Jackson realized a horrifying truth. Leaving the room meant leaving her trapped, but staying could cost him his life. She reached for him, her hands icy and fragile. Stay, stay. I've waited so long. Jackson's heart raced. The room swirled with shadows and cold wind, almost suffocating. He held her hand tightly, feeling the pain of cold, but also an inexplicable warmth of connection. Suddenly, the room's door rattled. He could hear distant voices in the hallway, other guests calling for him. The decision weighed heavy: escape or remain forever. The next morning, the receptionist checked room 7. It was empty. Jackson was gone. Guests in the hostel report strange sightings. A pale man sitting on the bed, holding hands with a ghostly woman. Shadows twisting unnaturally along the walls. Whispers calling names softly in the dead of night. Some nights, travelers hear, stay, stay with me. And if you ever stay in room 7, be warned. The room never sleeps, and some souls never leave.